أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. Continuing with our discussion which we have been having for these few lectures we have been having, where we are discussing the topic of empowerment versus spoon feeding or over directing. Now I don't want to get into repeating all those discussions which we have had. When we started this discussion, this is the main topic which we have been discussing. Under it, then we have been discussing the subtopics, the minor topics which we have been discussing. So after starting this topic, then we came to the discussion of consequences of spoon feeding or over directing masses or a community. We have discussed a few consequences. Then we started one of the consequences in the previous lecture, which we don't want to get into again and repeat. Today we started the discussion of Arbaeen and the related events in the previous discussion, where we had preliminary discussions on that topic, and I felt it was necessary to be able to discuss those preliminary discussions so that we can clarify the topic and clarify some of the opinions we have before getting into this topic itself. Okay, so we are continuing with the same topic of Arbaeen and related events, and I will be taking another 2-3 lectures on that. And the reason for prolonging on this topic, as much as it might not be very important for some, but because this issue has become very popular within the Shia minds today, okay? And I say today because if you go 200 years ago or even to the classical sources and scholars, you will find that the issue of Arbaeen was not as important the way it is today for the Shia masses and for the Shia society, okay? And this by itself shows you the evolution of how the rituals also evolve with time, okay? So what we want to discuss today are two issues. Inshallah, some other issues in the subsequent discussions as we go forward. One is the issue of what happened on the day of 20th Safar, what we call Arbaeen, what transpired on this day. Okay, so the whole issue of whether the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam came back from Sham to Karbala, then Medina, or they went from Sham to Medina straight away. Okay, this is one discussion we want to have. And the second discussion, which is very closely related to this discussion, is the whole issue of the head or the heads of the martyrs. What happened to the heads of the martyrs, okay? And you will see the close relationship between these two discussions. Now, before I get into the discussion, I would even like to make this humble suggestion to those who are following up on these discussions. See, these discussions are a bit different from the other discussions which you hear on the pulpit. They're a bit more inclined. I myself don't consider myself a scholar. I just consider myself a student who is trying to understand matters, okay? And thus trying to discuss some of the academic issues which are out there in the Shia world, okay? Or in the Muslim and the Islamic corpus. So, my humble suggestion, because whenever you speak to people, when they hear such lectures or they read some books also, and they hear conflicting opinions, okay? You will hear people telling you that one scholar said this, and the second scholar said this, and the third scholar said this. When we read this book, we read this opinion, and you read the other book, you read another opinion. We as people who have not undergone Hausa studies and the seminary studies, we are getting confused, okay? So my humble suggestion to such people and those who are following up on discussions, those who are not ready to follow up on discussions, they want to follow one single narrative, our discussion is not with them. The discussion is with those people who want to a bit give more time and give more effort to research and understand matters. My humble suggestion is here. When you're listening to such lectures, and not only myself, as I said, I'm not a scholar, okay? I'm a student who is trying to understand my own religion. But there are some scholars also out there who present academic discussions, some discussions which are academically inclined, some present very academic discussions also. While listening to the content, this is also important, focus on the methodology and the structure of that scholar also. Okay, this is very important for those who are following up on these discussions. Don't only listen to the content, but follow up on the methodology. Listen very attentively, follow very attentively as to what's the structure this scholar is using to be able to handle these matters. Okay, what's the methodology being used to be able to sort out these conflicting narratives and opinions? Okay, so even when we presenting, okay, follow on the structure, follow on the methodology, and you will get a sort of a methodology. You can then use it yourself. Don't rely on people. Okay, until when will you rely on people to be able to sort out your matters? On minor issues, do your own analysis, do your own research. If you want to put the higher word, do your own ijtihad, okay? And minor issues, we're not saying you should go into major issues. Start with minor issues. So for example, the issue we're discussing, Arbaeen, as I said, for the classical scholars, this should have been considered a minor issue. Okay, get into this, look at the conflicting narrations, look at the conflicting opinions, and then put up a structure yourself so that you can sort out these matters yourself rather than depending on others. It will never come that day that somebody can come and tell you that this is a cake and food properly cooked for you and this eat it up only. That day will never come. Okay. So coming back to our discussion, what transpired on the day of Arbaeen or the 20th of Safar? The family, did they come to Karbala and then they went to Medina, or the state from Sham went to Medina? This is our first discussion, as we said. Now, this is a book which I'll be using a bit today. I've introduced this book earlier also in the previous series. Maqtal Jami' Sayyid al-Shuhada. Okay, these are 2 volumes. Can you see it's thick volumes? But it's a beautiful book where it's a comprehensive maqtal also. Apparently it's translated, its summary is translated in Urdu for those who understand Urdu, but it's in English, it's still not yet there. But still, you are living in a world where you have AI tools. It gives you 80% of clarity of what you're researching. Pick up these books and start researching a bit. Okay, don't rely on somebody to come and translate everything for you. So this is volume 2. This work has been done by almost 10 to 11 historians and scholars together. Okay, shows you the importance of this work. Now, when we quote these references, please keep in mind that we don't agree everything which is written in these books. Okay, but we are introducing material, we are introducing references, so you can understand that references are out there. You can also go research yourself. Now, the first point we want to make is, and this is where methodological clues come in. Okay, focus on these methodological clues. The first thing, whenever you are researching on a topic, find out that what is the scholarly opinion on this topic in general. Now, what do I mean in that? So come to this topic on page number 284. Okay, on page number 284. The scholars give you a clue that the way this topic is being presented simplistically, it's not as simple the way it's being presented. Do you get me? This is a very important point to be able to go into research. Whenever you're going into research, look for these clues. Okay, so the scholars tell you now, we have a recent effort going on that those who want to impose this one narrative, what we are trying to prove is that it's not simple the way it's being presented, that one theory and one narrative is certain. Rather, look at what scholars are saying, okay? So this is page number 284. Look at what they are saying. تعیین زمان حضور اهل بیت امام حسین علیه السلام در کربلا بعد از شهادت آن حضرت یکی از مسائل مبهم و پیچیده در تاریخ عاشورا است. Okay, this is a very important statement. Okay, these are historians telling you, these are scholars telling you. So those who come and tell you that when they're enforcing a single narrative and tell you those others who have other opinions are not historians, look at what historians are telling you. Notice they're saying that to come and put up a time, okay, to say this is the time when the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam came to Karbala after the shahada of Imam Husayn alayhi salam is one of the things which are very vague and very complicated issues of history. Vague meaning there are no details out there. The details are very few, okay? We hardly have details. As we go further, you will see that the details are very few. You cannot make up a certain conclusion, a conclusion with conviction that this is the opinion and this is it, because the details are not there. And it's also pichide, meaning it's complicated. The evidences are altogether contradictory. As we go further, we will see this, okay? So then he goes further, they go further by saying that چرا که بیشتر منابع حدیثی و تاریخی در این باره گزارش های مجملی دارند که از آنها نمیتوان به طور قطعی نتیجه گرفت. Okay? So why? Because the details are vague. They're very mujmal. They're very basic, if you want to call it that way. They're very vague in their description. So we can't take a certain conclusion, a conclusion with conviction that this is it. What is that in حادثه در روز 20 سفر در سال 61 رخ داد. Okay? You can't come and make a conclusion, a certain conclusion, okay, a conclusion with conviction that this is the event which took place on the 20th of Safar. That means on Arbaeen, okay? Do you get the point, okay? Now, this is the same point. They also make it on page number 308. Yes, on page number 308, yes. After discussing everything, okay? After discussing everything related to Arbaeen, look at their conclusion. They say, as majmوع آنچه گذشت. So all what we discussed, روشن شد که اگرچه از نظر متن اخبار تاریخی و حدیثی اثبات حضور اهل بیت در روز اربعین بر سر مزار شهدا چندان آسان نیست. Okay, so to come and prove it, that the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam came in Karbala on Arbaeen on the 20th Safar is not an easy task considering the way the sources have been presented. Do you get me? Okay, so this was the first point I wanted to make, that the sources are very conflicting, they're contradictory, and thus it's not easy to come and take a very conclusive opinion and say this is it, the opinion and nothing else. Everybody who doesn't believe in this opinion is not a historian, is not a scholar, not accepted. No, it's not like that. Okay, point number one. Point number two, now we come to the actual discussion. So the way, again, those scholars, the way it's being presented at the moment, that this has become the famous opinion at the moment within the Shia world, that the family came to Karbala on the 40th. This is not the way it is. There are four opinions on this topic. Okay? Four opinions on this topic. Now, we come to the first opinion. Okay? The first opinion is what is the famous opinion at the moment, and that is that the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam came to Karbala on the day of Arbaeen. Okay, this is the famous opinion at the moment. Now, this opinion so is shared by the only classical source we have for this opinion is one opinion. Now, Abu Rayhan Biruni, who was a genealogist, is considered a Sunni scholar, is not considered a Shi'i scholar, okay? A genealogist and a scholar in his own right. He passed away in 440 Hijrah, so this is mid 5th century. That's the only source we have for this opinion, early classical scores, okay? Later, for example, none of the known scholars have adopted this opinion until 1030 Hijrah, okay? So early 11th Hijrah, you have a known scholar by the name of Sheikh Bahai. He is also of the same opinion. Look at what Abu Rayhan Biruni says. Okay, he says, وَفِي الْعِشْرِينَ رُدَّ رَأْسُ الْحُسَيْنِ إِلَى جَثَّتِهِ. Okay, on the 20th of Safar, okay, the head of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Can you see now the discussion is coming on the head now? Okay, so the discussion is very closely tied with the issue of the heads. Okay, so the head of Imam Husayn. Another thing to keep in mind here, notice the head of only Imam Husayn is being discussed, not the heads of other shuhada. As we come to the discussion of the heads, you will see this. Okay, so only the head of Imam Husayn alayhi salam was returned back to his body. Okay, and then he comes and says وَفِيهِ زِيَارَةُ الْأَرْبَعِينَ, and then the haram and the family of Imam Husayn also came to Karbala. Okay, so this is the only opinion in the classical scholars. This is an opinion also of Abu Rayhan Biruni, who says that this is what happened on this day. Okay, now you can make it up from this discussion that what is the drawback and what is the con of it. Okay, so you have only one source. Okay, the drawback of this opinion is that you have only one classical source telling you that this is what transpired on the day of Arbaeen. That means others have all rejected, showing you that others have all not accepted the opinion of the family coming back to Karbala, okay, on this day of Arbaeen. This is the first opinion. The second opinion, which is shared by majority, now it's become the opposite, but the classical scholars, the majority of them used to share this opinion, including Sunni historians like Tabari also, okay? Tabari, who is a historian. Okay, the reason I'm stressing on this is because we were being told that Shaykh Mutahari is not a historian. When he says this opinion, he's not a historian. No, historians are also telling you that they believe in this opinion. What's this opinion? This opinion says that the family left Sham and went towards Medina straight away. They didn't come to Karbala. Okay, so look at this example. Two examples I would like to give you. One from the classical scholars, Sheikh Mufid. In his Masar al-Shi'a, page number 47, look at what he says. وَفِي الْيَوْمِ الْعِشْرِينَ, on the 20th, the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam returned from min al-Sham ila Madinat al-Rasul. Can you see? From Damascus to Medina. They didn't come via Karbala. Okay? Now, then he goes further by saying this is the day when Jabir came to Karbala. Now, this is all a discussion which we will have in the next discussion, that did Jabir also come on the day of Arbaeen or not? Some scholars have questioned on this narrative also. This was Sheikh Mufid. Sheikh Alama Madlisi, in his Bihar al-Anwar, he comes and says that now he's discussing the reason why Ziyaratul Arbaeen is mustahab on the day of Arbaeen, which we will discuss again in the next and subsequent discussions. But the reason he mentions, one of the reasons he says is رجوع حرم الحسين عليه السلام مثل ذلك اليوم إلى كربلاء. Okay? Al-Mashhur Bain al-Ashab. He says it's famous, it's become popular Now we'll come and discuss popularity means what, okay? Is popularity enough to grant something hujjiyya? Is something getting a probative force if it's just mashhur and popular or not? This is with something we will come and discuss, okay? He says that it's become mashhur, it's become popular within the Shia circles that the family came on the day of Arbaeen to Karbala from Sham. He says that is one reason possible. The other reason, he says, is the joining of the heads of the martyrs. Now notice, he's not only discussing the head of Imam Husayn, the way it was presented in the classical sources, he's adding, he's saying the head of the martyrs were joined with the bodies in Karbala on this day. But what's important is to show you that he negates both. He refuses both, and he says kilahuma mustab'idan jiddan. Okay, both of them are impossible, showing you that that's not his opinion. He's of the opinion that they went to from Sham to Medina. Okay, now somebody might say no, it was not in the first Arbaeen, they came in the second Arbaeen. So he goes on further by saying وَكَوْنُ ذَلِكَ فِي السَّنَةِ الْأُخْرَى أَيْضًا مُسْتَبْعِدٌ. So somebody comes and tells you that it didn't happen in 61 Hijrah, it happened in the 62nd Hijrah. That's also impossible according to Allama Majlisi. And that's why he's one of those scholars who believes that they didn't come to Karbala. Okay, now, so when such scholars mention these opinions, you see this, the opinions are very clear and they're very straightforward statements from these scholars. They're telling you that they came from Sham to Medina. So those scholars now who are trying to impose a narrative today that no, they came to Karbala, when they are stuck with these kind of sources and these kind of statements, they now come and tell you, that how can we explain the whole issue of Imam coming back to Karbala. Okay, they are trying to impose that the narrative that Imam came back to Karbala, the fourth Imam with the family. So if they came back to Karbala, then Sheikh Mufid says that they didn't come to Karbala. Then how do we explain that? Okay, now before I get into explaining this, look at how many scholars believe in this opinion. Okay, so this same book, okay, from page number 285 onwards mentions this. Okay, one is Allama Majlisi. Number two, we mentioned, okay, Sheikh Mufid believes in that. Sheikh Tusi believes in that. Allama Hilli also believes in this opinion. These are all going towards the classical scholars. Okay, then you come in the later scholars, you have the likes of Mirza Noori, okay, who was the teacher of Sheikh Abbas Qummi himself, okay, and then later scholars like Shaykh Mutahari also. They all believe that this event actually, they all believe that they didn't come to Karbala, rather they went to Medina straight away. Okay, so now coming back to the question now, so these scholars were trying to impose the narrative that they came to Karbala. What do they do with these statements? With all these scholars who are denying that, the likes of Sheikh Mufid and Sheikh Tusi. So this is a question now which is being asked. The classical sources are silent on this issue. The classical scholars don't even mention, rather they mention they went to Medina straight away. So look at the answer they're trying to give. Okay, this is on page number 296. Now see the justifications. Okay, and this is what I'm trying to tell you, that sometimes we try and impose it forcefully, an opinion on scholars which they don't believe in. If they believed that the Imam came to Karbala with the family, then they would have mentioned it very clearly. Okay, when they didn't mention it, when they mentioned the whole issue of Medina, then that shows you that's their opinion. But we want to justify it. Look at what they're saying. They say that در هیچ یک از منابع یاد شده سخن صریح دال بر عدم حضور اهل بیت در کربلا دیده نمیشود. So now they're trying to prove the opposite. They're saying, okay, they've mentioned that they went to Medina, but they're not rejecting the other opinion also. But when they're mentioning it very clearly that they went to Medina, what do you want more? So if I tell you that I am going to Medina just now, okay, that means I didn't go to Kufa at the moment. That's very clear, okay? But still, they want to emphasize that no, there's no rejection in these books, okay? So now, they go on further by saying شاید گزارش های از حضور اهل بیت در کربلا وجود داشته است یاد به دست آنان نرسیده. So there were narratives and there were references and sources which say that they came to Karbala, but it didn't reach in their hands. So if it didn't reach there in their hands, that means they didn't have that opinion. Or further than that, یا رسیده اما آنان به دلایلی به آن استناد نکرده اند. So or it reached in their hands. That means they had sources in their hands telling them that they went to Karbala, but they didn't use it. This makes the second opinion even more stronger then. Because if they had the proofs in their hands and the evidence in their hands, then why did they not use it? They found it not strong enough. Do you get me? Okay? This is how we are analyzing. So this is the second opinion. This is an opinion which say that the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam didn't come to Karbala. They went straight away to Sham. The third opinion is a very, one scholar, one author, I don't know if we can even call him a scholar, is an author who proposes this opinion. He says that the family came to Karbala not on the first Arbaeen, not on 61st Hijrah, rather in 62nd Hijrah. Do you get the difference now, yeah? So the first opinion was saying that they came back on the 61st Hijrah. That means they stayed for a month and came back. This author is trying to propose, no, they stayed for a whole year plus and then they came back. Okay? So the author is not somebody very known, though those who have written about him, they're trying to propose that he was a scholar or not, but we don't know much about him. He was the son of the king of the Qajar in the 13th century. Okay, so his name was Farhad Mirza, who was the son of Abbas Mirza, who was the king in the Qajar period in the 13th century. So this book is written in the 14th century. The name is also very strange. I don't know what's the meaning of this title. Qamqam Zakhar wa Samsam Battar, or Batar. I don't know the name. This is the name written. This is the book's name. The author proposes that they came in the second year, not the first year they came back to Arbaeen. This is a very rare opinion. I'm not getting into it because there's hardly evidence for this. Okay? Now, come to the fourth opinion. The scholars of this opinion say no, the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam came to Karbala, but didn't come to Karbala on the day of Arbaeen. Get the difference, okay? With the first one. They say the first one said that they came on the day of Arbaeen, on the 20th Safar. We said the only classical source for that we had was Abu Rayhan Biruni. Here now is scholars like Sheikh Saduq and Sayyid ibn Tawus who share this opinion. They say that they came to Karbala, but we don't know the date when they came to Karbala. So again, they don't have any clarity or they don't provide any clarity on when did they come, how did they come, what happened, nothing, no clarity. They're just saying that they came to Karbala without any clarification on the date, okay? So this is Sheikh Saduq in his Amali. He's quoting this narration from Fatima bint Ali. Okay, Fatima, the daughter of Ali alayhi salam. Interestingly, Abu Mikhnaf is also part of this narration. Okay, Lut bin Yahya is also one of the narrators of this narration. Okay, so in his Amali, he quotes this narration. He quotes, it's a bit of a longer narration where he says, after all what the Ahlul Bayt went through and the family of Imam Husayn went through, Eventually, they were released from Sham. Now, this is where our statement is important. إلى أن خرج علي بن الحسين عليهما السلام بالنسوة, until when the fourth Imam together with the ladies were released from Sham and they left Sham. And then now he says وَرَدَّ رَأْسَ الْحُسَيْنِ إِلَى كَرْبَلَاء. Okay, and then the head of Imam Husayn. Notice again, the classical sources will tell you only the head of Imam Husayn was returned. Okay, the head of Imam Husayn alayhi salam was returned to Karbala. This is the opinion of Sheikh Saduq, without mentioning when did this take place. No mention of that. Do you get me? Now there's a second reading for this. You can read it by saying وَرُدَّ رَأْسُ الْحُسَيْنِ إِلَى كَرْبَلَاء. In that way, you would say that the family came out from Sham on that day, but the head of Imam Husayn was returned back to, as we come, inshallah, we'll see a narration in Al-Kafi, Sheikh Kulayni's Kafi, you will see this being approved by Sheikh Kulayni's narration, okay? That the head was returned. It wasn't returned by the fourth Imam. It was returned back only to Karbala and joined back to the body. Do you get me? Okay. Now, this is the fourth opinion. Okay. Now, both ways can be read. The majority reading is this, that the fourth Imam took the head of the father and took it back to Karbala. Okay. Now, the drawback, again, come back to the drawback of this discussion and this opinion. One, it's that it contradicts with other narrations, as we will come and see the narrations of the heads of what happened to the head of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. We will see that the majority narrations talk about Najaf and Kufa, which we will come to. There's a contradiction. How to sort this contradiction? This is issue number one. Number two, there's contradiction between the historical evidences itself. So majority historians say that, again, we'll come to historians again when they mention the issue of the heads again. You will see that there's opinions which are differing between the historians themselves. Okay? So now, when you have conflicting narrations, conflicting narratives in the historical sources itself, what do you do? Okay? Do we even have, okay? And this is where one of the complaints are, that the scholars have focused a lot on the topic and the field of fiqh only. So we have a whole study of usulul fiqh, okay, principles of jurisprudence, but we don't have principles of tafsir. We don't have principles of how to deal with historical narrations, principles of akhlaq, okay, and how to deal with akhlaqi and ethical narrations, okay. Now, this is where scholars need to come and discuss how to sort out these contradictory narrations within historical books. Okay, these were the four opinions. Now, I wanted to go into the discussion of the heads. I will stop. It's already almost past the 30-minute. We had promised that we'll not go further than 30 minutes. Let's stop here. In conclusion, what I wanted to say is this. We were discussing the whole topic of the family of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Did they come back to Karbala on the day of Arbaeen, or they went straight away from Sham to Medina? Okay, this was one discussion. The second discussion, which we didn't get time to discuss, was the whole issue of the head of, or the heads of the martyrs. What happens to that? Okay, now the conclusion which I want to make is this, that those who come and tell you that no, the narrative is this, that the family came to Karbala and this is the narrative. Anybody else who tells you that they didn't come to Karbala and rather they went to Medina straight away are not historians. They are not well versed in history. That's not the case. Okay, we proved. Okay, we showed this book also. This book and these historians also tell you that no, it's not as simple the way it's being presented. Things are not as simple the way it's being presented. Rather, it's not easy also the way, according to them, that it's not easy to come to certain conclusions with convictions that this is it and it. Okay, it's not the way we can get to conclusive opinions. Okay, so in conclusion, what I want to say is that we have 4 opinions on this topic. 3 of them at least are accepted by scholars, and the reason for that is contradictory narrations, sometimes the absence of evidences, and thus it's ijtihad now. Okay, now in the process of ijtihad, you can't come and impose one opinion and say this is it and nothing else. Ijtihad is a door which is open. Okay, let's pray to Allah to give us the tawfiq to be able to understand our religion better, and inshallah allow and accept diverse opinion within the scholars as the way the scholars have discussed, and not fight with each other, rather stay peacefully with each other and reach to that level that we agree to disagree in some places. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.